In the 18th century, a piece of land consisting of coral sand with little or no vegetation and no sources of fresh water became home to 60 people. For many years, Tromelin Island is located in the Indian Ocean 450 kilometers of eastern Madagascar. Even in the 18th century, when the French colonialists were actively engaged in the slave trade, this island remained aloof from all sea routes and could not offer anything but sand and crabs. Moreover, the approach to it due to the strong currents of the reefs cannot be called safe. However, in 1761, after the expiration of circumstances on the coast of the island, a ship's slave of merchants appeared. The captain of the ship is doubly a bastard. Not only did he transport slaves in such a way, he did it illegally. The fact is that at that time slavery was legal because of each slave to pay a tax, so in order not to pay those same taxes, the captain chose a route passing far from all seaways. This was a mistake and became a fatal night for him. The ship ran into reefs in little studied waters and sank. There were from 100 to 200 slaves from Madagascar on board, as well as several dozen French sailors. 60 Malagasy slaves and 20 crew members managed to survive. On boats and just by swimming they got to the island. The slaves could not take power into their own hands because the crew had weapons. Life appeared in the ocean. 2 camps in one slave, in another Frenchman. The French. In 2 months they were able to build something similar to a big boat from the ship and left the island. He managed to escape cheaper than cattle, because no one began to become rescue expeditions and they simply forgot private small towns. People had no chance of salvation. The place where they were in distress was far from any civilization. 15 long years passed. A warship under the command of Captain Bernard Tromelin, he passed by, and on a piece of land, the beholder noticed human figures. The boats of sailors were sent to the island, which later received the name of Captain de Tromelin. On the sandy coast, the last inhabitants of the inhospitable land, 7 women and 1 child, met all of them. They were taken to the ship and taken to the island of Mauritius, where the rescued were given freedom. The story of the survival of people on the island was traumatized for a long 15 years was amazing. The heroic unfortunate had to eat shellfish, crabs and turtles, but if the meager food on the island was then with water, everything was very bad. It had to collect during the rains in small copper containers rescued from a sunken ship. Surprisingly, they are not dashing on the island and built an oven in which they cooked seafood in 2006, but it became scientists who first studied the traces of 60 Robinsons on this piece of land. Archaeologists were surprised at how people were able to survive, and strictly everything that could be done to explore the island has not yet been completed. At present the island is no longer considered uninhabited. It has a meteorological station that studies the movement of air masses over the Indian Ocean, and a landing strip for airplanes, and also the island of Tromelin for centuries. Nobody needed, turned out to be a disputed territory for international courts to possess it. Not a single decade of France and Mauritius.